Welcome back to West Texas View.
Geneva Dodson is a well-honored real estate agent in the West Texas area, and she has just given us last Sunday and part of this Sunday already some really good information you need to know if you are in the buyer or seller frame of mind. And I want us to talk just a little bit about the mortgage. You alluded to it just for a minute last Sunday, but a lot of people coming into a new community are maybe first-time home buyers don't know really where to start. And tell us what you would advise somebody that came to you and said, this is how much money we can pay a month, and what would you advise them to do from that point?
What I do there, Johnny Lou, is I make an appointment usually for them to go to a mortgage company to be pre-qualified for the loan.
And you tell them to take all of their financial statements?
That's right, all the information that they have as far as what they owe and how much money they have. They go in and they sit down with a loan officer, and they fills out papers with all that information, and then they tell them how much home they can buy or how much loan that they'll make for them. And they also tell them what the payment will be, interest rate, and things like that. So,
one of the things that I've had questions about is that in looking at a brand new home loan with no house to sell, maybe because they've been living with parents or they've been renting, and so they don't have a large down payment, and they would say, what kind of loan can I get which will be the least down payment I can give? And would that be an FHA?
Yes, unless they're military, and if they're military, a VA, because it's a 100% loan. They have no down payment. They have closing costs, but a lot of times the seller, depending on the market, the seller will pay and can pay their closing cost, and at least up to 5%, which covers most of their closing cost.
And so then you really may say you can't get this house with what you've been pre-approved for. You want 3 bedrooms and 2 baths and 2 garages and everything else, but you can't get that with this kind of loan. Or else you're going to have to go further out from the community, maybe into a suburb. Or
right. Yeah. Then I help them to see what is most important to them. If we have to eliminate a garage, or if we have to eliminate, for instance, a lot of people want out with the land. They don't realize that once they're looking at land, that's adding to the value of that property. So you can get a house in town a lot cheaper than you can get the same house with 5 acres out of town. So, these
plus
things,
the taxes are higher. And
right, and the gas that you've got to use and all that stuff. But anyway, I try to show them those things and see which is most important to them. And that's what we more or less concentrate on.
Well, I meant to ask you a minute ago about when you got into the real estate business, you were one of only a handful of women in your area that was in real estate. Now there's more women than men who are realtors. And how has this, why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that women are so rewarded from this profession?
Well, basically, what you're looking at is the man is interested in the financial aspect. He wants to know how much house he can get for his money. He wants to know what the payments are and interest and that type thing. A woman can see what another woman likes in a house. We love our kitchens. We want certain things in our, a
the
nice
layout
bathroom,
of the house. And,
good walk, area and flow and things like that. So it's easier for a woman to help another woman. And of course, we all know that the woman lives in that house and does most of the cleaning and things like that. So where a man doesn't, he's out making the money. So of course that's what he's more interested in. But when I came into real estate, of course it was a man's world, and the women and a woman basically had very little rights. we would go into closing with a man and a woman, and they would ask the man to step outside after he signed the papers. And the attorney would ask the woman if she was doing that of her own free will, if she was selling selling her homestead or whatever. So
that's interesting.
That's how much real estate has evolved, and women's rights have evolved over the years. So,
well, going back to the mortgage, you even some experienced home buyers, people that have owned their house for 30 years, and they say, okay, now I'm ready to downsize. There are so many alternatives now to downsizing. You can get apartments, you can get senior apartments, you can buy smaller houses. And so how do you wade through that with a downsizer? And how do you sell that house in time for them to move into the next house or to buy the next house?
Sometimes that's a little difficult.
That's the tight wire.
That is the tight wire. Get all your dominoes to fall. Sometimes you've got a whole stack of dominoes, and they've all got to fit in place. But let's say it's an older couple wanting to downsize. Do they want any yard work at all? If not, then that eliminates yards. If they want a little bit of a yard, then there's certain ones you
look more at patio homes or something.
Right. You eliminate the townhouses, which have no yard. So you just look to see what it is that they're why they want to downsize. If they want to be near a golf course, then you try to find them a townhouse or a patio home near the golf course.
And so then if they want to sell their big house, move into this garden home, and they buy this garden home before they've sold this, they have to get a bridge loan. Is that right?
They can get a bridge loan on their old home to buy the new one, yes.
Until it sells.
Until it sells, or they could do a contingency contract, which they tie up the house on a contract until their house sells. But now there's a clause in it that usually 72 hours, if another contract comes in that the seller is wanting to accept, he can do that, and that would bump the previous contract unless they remove that contingency. So there's different options, but yeah, we do try to coordinate to where they're not being put out.
We're going to have to take another break. We'll be back in just a minute and finish this conversation, and she's going to tell us some stories about being a real estate agent.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.